Hey y'all, it's Steve, Hobo with Wood. In this video, we're going to discuss kickstands on your frames, how to create your own integrated easel to help support your picture frame, where to place it, and how to configure it. Just stay tuned. So in one of our previous videos on the laser maker's realm, we shared a file on how to create some picture frames. And I went a step further in my design in creating a integrated kickstand on the back of out of the back of the framework that will allow you to place it and make the frame landscape or portrait. I've also got the hangers to hang it on the wall in the same two orientations. There we go. Sometimes the brain just shuts off. So you have two orientations here for hanging on the wall, landscape and portrait, and also for your desk art. Now, by doing it this way, I'm able to create one piece of artwork, one frame, that is going to appeal to 4 different buyers. The one who wants it for landscape on the desk, 1, landscape on the wall, 2, portrait on the wall, 3, or portrait on the desk, 4. One piece appeals to 4 different buyers. And the way this works, I simply just flip this up and my little kickstand will pop out. And I have it designed so that one tab is slightly larger than the other, so it can only go in here one way so you don't accidentally orient it in the wrong position. It slips into the slot, and now she's ready to sit there in a landscape. You want to change your portrait or your photograph, and now we're in portrait mode. Just slides out, change that. And now you're in portrait mode. It's really easy to do. No extra pieces to buy as far as any hinges or beading anything on there, like we did in Laser Maker's Realm. I used the 2 different size tabs so that if someone unfamiliar with the piece is trying to put this together, and they try and put it on there, like right now that's the correct orientation for portrait. Well, if you try to, it's not going to let you put it in here upside down because of the 2 different size tabs. That helps with the orientation. But that's slick, and that's a feature that's just for the I don't know, the less informed, the unaware. But the trick is the math on how to get these positioned, where to put them, and then also how to position the height of your kickstand. Because if you look, it is not lined up with the bottom of it, and this is coming up here at some weird angle. But whenever she's sitting flat, our picture is displaying at the proper angle, and it's nice and secure. So how do we do that? Well, I've got to design one of these on a piece of artwork, and we're going to jump into LightBurn and do this together in real time right now. So let's dive into LightBurn. Okay, so this is a little baby calf. This is a little boy calf that I'm going to design a kickstand for, so that this can self-support itself sitting in a photograph with a newborn. You can do monthly photographs, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, all the way up to a year old. But I need to have this be able to self-support itself, and no one have to be worried about it while they're trying to get the perfect photo of the baby. So I've got the basic artwork completed. Now I need to create my kickstand. Now this is all ready to go, ready to cut, and I don't want to mess up any of this stuff. So anytime I'm working with a piece, I will actually generate a copy, a duplicate, so I don't mess up my originals. Now this piece and this piece are actually identical at the moment, except for my brand that's on the bottom here. And this is actually going to be the very back piece. But I'm not going to mess with it right now, and that's where I need to be cutting. But I'm going to just say Control D, duplicate that, because they're the same, less the brand. And I'm going to move that over here to my workbed. The first thing I'm going to take note of is the overall height of this piece. It's 11.5928, so it's 11.6 inches tall. So I need to be able to see the profile of this piece. I cannot rotate that in LightBurn, but I can draw a rectangle and tell it to be 3 millimeters wide and 11.6 inches. Why didn't that work? No, it didn't work. Or did it? Nope. All right, and now 11.6. Oh, you know what? Just quote. There we go. All right. And what I was trying to do there, if you're working in millimeters like I was initially, tell it 3 millimeters wide, and let's say I wanted it to be 12 inches, you can just say 12 inches, and that would actually work. I tried to do IN and it didn't work, but I need 11.6 inches. There we go. All right, and now to confirm what we got, yes. All right, so there's my profile. Now, that is the side view of this 3 millimeter material, and it's standing straight up. It's completely vertical at 90 degrees. And that's not what I want. I want this to be reclined, and I'm going to do it at 18 degrees. Actually, I'm going to do it at 15 degrees. That looks better. 15 degrees. All right, now that that's reclined at 15 degrees, here's the top, this side's the face. Now I need to get that kickstand on there. So I'm going to draw another rectangle. And the only thing I know for sure right now is my height. I don't need it to be any larger than 11.6 inches. And I need to align it to the bottom of this piece. So now they're sitting level. And this is 11.6. But because we reclined it, it's only showing 11.25 height because it's in that on that angle. But we put it back upright and it'll be the same height as this piece here. All right, now I need to bring this in to where I want it to be propped up against the bottom of it. And now what I'm going to look for is, I don't want the top of it, this intersection up here where these two pieces meet. I don't want it to be so close to the top that it's going to be a problem when I go to put a hanger on the back of this piece. So it needs to be, you know, a good inch or so away from the top of it, like so. And then on the where it intersects here at the bottom, I need it to be at about midpoint-ish or so. And these 3 dots right here would be the midpoint of that rectangle that we have selected. And it's real close to the midpoint of that piece there. I'm going to leave her a little bit higher than midpoint. We're going to leave it there at 15 degree reclined. We got this piece, and I did not set any dimensions other than the overall height, and that's getting ready to be changed because we're going to intersect these. So first thing I want to do is I'm going to select my artwork and Control D, duplicate it. Now I'm going to select the kickstand, hold my shift button and select the artwork and hit the subtract button over here, A subtract B. Doesn't look like much happened there, but it did. This is now 2 separate pieces, but they are grouped. So I'm going to hit my ungroup button. Now I can select this and hit the delete button. And now we have the beginnings of our kickstand. Now there are a couple things I want to do. I need to get my tabs and my slots, and then I want to make it more aesthetically pleasing than just this rectangular kickstand. And also another thing I like to do is I like to bring this point out to at least the edge of the top of the painting. Right now it's inside of it. I like to bring it out to at least the edge of it. Alright, but first we need to get our tabs and our slots. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select both of these and we're going to rotate it back negative 15 degrees. And you can see this is now, the artwork is now vertical. This is no longer going to align to the bottom, which it shouldn't be. But we need to get our tabs and slots in here. So I'm going to come back in here. I'm going to select my rectangle tool. I'm going to draw a rectangle. And I'm going to set my dimensions to 3 millimeters. And let's do 18 millimeters. There we go. Now I'm going to say Control D, duplicate that, bring it down. Up. It did not bring it down. Select it, bring it down. There we go. Now we got to put that back to 3 millimeters. And on this one, instead of 18 millimeters, let's do 12 millimeters. This is just to give a very distinct difference between those two sizes. Now I need to bring these over here. Now placement, where do they want to be? Where do they need to be? Well, that actually doesn't look too bad just by pure chance, but I look for an equal distance from the top to the bottom of that kickstand to where these would be placed. And I can actually bring this one up a little bit. Now group, hold my shift key and group those. And now that they're grouped, what you can do is draw a rectangle, come over here, get your crosshairs, come up to here, put that on toolpath, say okay, select it, toolpath so we can see it a little different. All right, and now grab that pair and my toolpath and align it to center and there. Delete that. Those are now centered on the back of that kickstand. Now the first thing I need to do is take that group or that pair and say Control D, duplicate it. And I'm going to slide it out of the way for right now. And now I'm going to, actually, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and take the artwork, hold my shift key and that, and tell it to, no, I don't want to do that. I just want to slide it over. Actually, and I could just tell it to align center. There we go. So those are aligned. These are positioned correctly. They're not lined up over the side of it, but that's okay. Because here's what you can do without even having to be worried about too much about being exact. Even if you just moved it in there to where it's really overlapping big time, that's fine. Say okay, hold your shift key, it's like that, and weld them together. Say, well, wait a minute, they're no longer 3 millimeters. Well, you're right, they're not. But I can just simply select that, go into Tools, Resize Slots and Selection. We're going to change our tab height, but we don't know what that tab height was. It don't matter. It was 3 millimeters, and we changed it by having them too far in when we merged them. But we don't know what it is. That's okay. We'll just keep increasing this. We're going to change our tab height. We're going to increase our tolerance until there you go. Now it's selected them. Say okay. And now that fixed our tab height. And if you don't believe me, we'll go to our ruler, come in here and look, and there's 3 millimeter tab height. Now something else I recommend doing, this is 3 millimeters tall. I come in here with the radius, and I'm going to give it a, let's try 1/2 degree and see what that looks like, or 1/2 millimeter rather. Right there, yep, right there, there, and there. All right, with that 1/2 millimeter radius on there, that's just going to make it that much easier to insert this kickstand in the back of the frame when you go to try to put them together. So now we have our tabs on our kickstand. We have the correct orientation, or angles and all for the kickstand. We have the right height. Now we need to get our slots positioned in our frame. So now I'm going to select both of these. I'm going to go ahead and group everything so everything doesn't move. Now those are grouped. I'm going to hold my shift key and select my artwork, and I'm going to tell it to align to the bullseye, to the center. So now that is exactly centered up in the back of my artwork. I can select it, I can ungroup it, then I can select the rectangle and delete that. And there are my slots grouped together. Hold my shift key and that and group it all together. Now there are my slots for the back of the artwork, and I have my kickstand. Now, I don't particularly care for the way this looks with this just being a straight piece of wood sitting back there. So what I'm going to do to make that better, instead of deleting that rectangle a minute ago, I should have just moved it over, but we're just going to draw it again. We're going to draw a 3 millimeter, not 32, 3 millimeter by 11.6 inch. Now this is where it's a little tricky, because now he's like, okay, well, you don't want to position it to the bottom, but for what I'm getting ready to do, doesn't really matter where this is positioned. I just want to have this here so I can get an idea on how my modifications are going to look. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to, these 2 points down here cannot move. All right, those need to be fixed positions in your mind, because if you change this straight line right here, you're going to mess up how your piece sits. But you can change any part of it up here in these two. Turn this on. You can change that purple line. You can change that purple line. You can even change the radiuses of these, as long as you don't change the overall purple line right there. So what I mean by that is, we'll come here to this radius. In fact, well, first let's look and see. Right now that's showing it's 20.5 millimeters. So okay. So if I come right here and give it a -5 millimeters and click right here, that's just going to give a little round over on that part of it. And then I'll come here to my node editing and actually yeah, I would have moved this out. In fact, I still can. I don't have this exactly positioned exactly where it needs to be as far as the artwork goes, but that's a little bit irrelevant because right now this is all what I think is going to look good to the eye. But if we rotate this back 15 degrees, what I just do, undo that, I fat fingered it, that's what I did. Rotate this 15 degrees, and then I come right up here, go into node editing, select just this node, and just come straight out with it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I've got that at a millimeter per click, so I just moved that out 1 centimeter. I did not change the orientation of that line, I just made the base a little bit wider. So now that I've done that, still in node editing, I can do a little curvature here. In fact, I'll hit the letter M, come over here and hit the letter M. If I get it on line, there we go, and there we go. So that just inserted a node in the middle of both of those two tangents, if that's the right word for it. I'm going to move this in, and I'll move this one in. Hit the letter S to smooth that out. Letter S. Right now I'm looking at just aesthetics. We need to be focusing on the math and the geometry, and we've done that. So now that I've got that done, I can get rid of this toolpath, bring this piece over here, and now using my rotate tool I can just position this wherever I need it to be on the back of that to where I can cut it out and be safe from all the sides. And now that is done. I'm gonna go ahead and move him. I don't even need him actually. I'm going to delete that. Move this over here. Grab our brand, bring our brand up. Now I've just switched places with those two pieces. All right, so those are ready to cut. I'm going to place holes around here. I'm using 3mm screws, so I'm going to do a 2mm circle. And now that I've got a 2mm circle, I will place them around the sides of the kickstand, because that's where I'm going to put my little pieces to help hold it in place. Control D. Did not duplicate. Control D. There we go. Put those on a cut path. Now those are pre-drilled and ready to go for my hardware. I need to put my, what is that, the alligator clip or whatever they call that, to hang it on the wall. I'll put holes up there for that. In fact, I haven't saved that in my toolpath yet by itself, but I do have it saved in on one of the frames. So we're going to import the frame. Let's move it over here out of the way. This pair of holes ungroup and here. Let's group those, tell it to go to center. Get rid of my dog frame. And now that's pre-drilled for the wall hanging hardware. All right, let's cut this out and see what happens. Okay, so that's my process of developing a kickstand for my artwork. How I find the proper placement, figure out the right geometry. It's not very difficult. Now, this being that this artwork is obviously going to be standing in the upright position, I only configured the one placement for the one pair of slots. And this little handy dandy piece just sits right in there, and those little lock in place. And now, if you want to, it can just hang on the wall. And you've always got your kickstand there when you want to go do your photo session. But when you're doing picture frames, you're going to want to be able to orient your slots in position so that they could be either for landscape or portrait. And it's the same process. The only difference is you're doing one more position. There they were positioned in the center and then duplicated, and the whole thing was rotated, and then that was placed in position again, center position again. So it's really not hard to configure both. The one thing you need to look out for is making sure that when you place your slots, that they're not going to be high enough to interfere with any of your hardware if you're going to place any hanging hardware, and that when you position your kickstand, that it's not going to be in a way that, or in a position where it's going to interfere with any of your hanging hardware. But this is not hard to do. You've seen that process, the whole creation of the, I didn't bother showing you the painting and the glue up of my little newborn photo props. I don't know what to call them. But I've got one for the boys and one for the girls. And then a ear tag for each month. They just slide on to the dowel, easy peasy. I will have this design available on hobowithwood.com if you would like to purchase the actual design. The black and the blue was all that one layer cut out. Just I picked up the hooves and the eyeballs separate, painted them black, painted the rest of that layer blue, and then glued it all together and putting those pieces together like a puzzle. So it's really easy to do, but a super cute project. And with having the kickstand built in, you now have a real easy way to display this, and it self-supports during a photo session, or just even on the dresser or hanging on the wall. You could also take this piece, which is the cutout from here, and use that for personalization. If you wanted to put, the baby's name and date of birth and all that, you could put that in there. It's fitting right now, but it does fit. And have that as a permanent birth name and announcement, and then have the age information up there. A couple of different things you can play with this and make it your own. Now, only thing about the kickstand works as long as you have multiple points across the front for this to make a triangle, at least a triangle to support itself once it's on the floor or on the ground, the stand, the table, whatever, like so. If this bottom piece, like right now, the two hooves here and here are making contact in here, so there's 3 points of contact. If you only had 1 point of contact here in the front lower center, that's not going to work. It's just going to want to stand up and fall over till it makes contact with the side, and it's going to be leaning. So keep that in mind. You could overcome that by simply putting a T-bar in the bottom of this to where you cut out a piece of material. Here we go. If you cut a slot in here and a slot in here and made it a little T like that, where that was all one level, centered up. Then if you had only one point of contact in the front, this would give you multiple contacts of point in the rear, and you could get by with doing something like that. And you could even have that as a separate piece that was on the back of it and locked in place as well. So I hope you found this informative. I hope you learned a little something. If you know a better way to do this, hey, share it with me. Let me know. This is just Hobo's way. I found it works for me. It's really, really easy. But if there's another step or another process that can be done to make it even better, please drop a line in the comments. Let me know. Let me know what you think about the projects. So, until the next video, I'm Hobo, and I'm out.